Philadelphia. The Bird season comes to a close without a postseason appearance. What should we expect in the offseason? Will Wentz be dealt? What moves should Jeffrey Lurie make to the front office? Many questions to ponder, and we start right now. We are talking Eagles football, and this is the Ron Jaworski Show. Now, here's your host, Ron Jaworski.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ron Jaworski Show. And we are coming to you live from the Seven Tap Tavern at the Ramblewood Country Club. And yes, we have a few guys hanging out. They played some golf today and paying attention to what's happening in the National Football League and around the National Football League. And a special thanks to all our great sponsors this season, Bradford White Water Heaters, Carl Pinto, and all the wonderful folks at Bradford White. Thank you so much. And Bradford White Water Heaters, built to be the very best. And a special thanks to Miller Lite, Mark Kramer, Brandon Dalton for their incredible support throughout the years of the Ron Jaworski Show. Gentlemen, appreciate your incredible support. Thank you so much. And boy, we all heard that that open. I don't know where to start. I wrote it down on my notes. Where do we start? I got my buddy Coffee Jones next to me here, and Coffee. Then I flipped the sheet because I've already thought about this. I'm being like a quarterback, you know. I'm trying to read the defense here, and I've got a list of things that, you know, where do we start? And to help me with this list in a few minutes is going to be the great Sal Paolantonio. I love when Sal's on the show. Sal is not only a dear friend, a longtime friend, but with Sal, you get two perspectives. You get the local perspective because he lives here and he loves the Eagles. He'd like to see him do well, but he's always also very fair in his evaluations and appraisals and what he sees. He always gives me a national perspective on how things are perceived by the folks around the country in regards to the Philadelphia Eagles. So Sal has always been kind of that guy that, I'm more the emotional guy. I'm more the knee-jerk kind of reaction guy, although I sometimes think I'm very thoughtful. But Sal kind of calms me down. And I think today, Coffee, I need to be calmed down.
Sal might fire you up, Joe. I don't know.
Sal might fire me up. Now, Coffee, I called the game Sunday night, the Eagles-Washington game for Westwood 1, and Coffee was my spotter, so he's hanging with me all day and all during the game. And, I'm during the game, you're focused on calling a game and going what's on. And, a lot of things were happening. Obviously, it was a big game for Washington, the win, and they're in. The Eagles want to be the spoiler and help out the New York Giants. And, I'm calling the game. I'm calling a football game. But, man, after that game, like, all hell broke loose. I mean, Twitter world is like, I got friends around the country, like, ripping me like I was calling shots for the Eagles. Guys, I just called the game. But the tank game, as I'm calling it right now, I mean, took on a life of its own, and it still continues. So with that, I'm going to bring in my dear friend and the best in the business, the best reporter in the business, Mr. Sal Paolantonio. Sal, thanks for joining us here on my last show of 2020 NFL season. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm honored to be on your last show of the season. Happy New Year to you and Liz and your beautiful family, which I admire and respect so much, and obviously to Mr. Coffee's beautiful family, which I admire and respect, and I'm happy to be on the show. Jaws, I'm a little under the weather. I gotta tell you, Sunday I was out in the rain and cold for about 12, 15 hours, and right now I got a massive head cold. I'm putting Dayquil in my soup, my tea, my coffee, anything I can put. And I'm going to take the NyQuil tonight. So if I sound like I got a cold, I do. And also I'm a little subdued given the events in the nation's capital today. So I'm not going to fire you up. Let's do this. Let's do this clinically and look at it from a perspective that's realistic. We are in the Philly area, so let us keep it real. This was we all know the great line from Bill Parcells. You are what your record says you are. That's what Howie Roseman, the GM of the team, said in his post-season press conference.
Exactly right.
This was a 4-11 team. 3 of their 4 wins came against backup quarterbacks. The 4th win came against a team where the quarterback fell down on what could have been an 80-yard touchdown run, and the Pro Bowl tight end dropped the pass that would have been the go-ahead pass in the game. So the Eagles, they are one of the worst teams in the league right now. And for me, I mean, we'll talk about the quarterback, obviously, and what has to happen next. But I think, and you have always taught me when we were on the show together for years and years and years, and the quarterback is the ultimate complementary position in professional sports. I remember you pounding that into my head. And the Eagles' offensive line has got to get fixed.
Okay, so we're 2 for 2. We need help at the quarterback spot, more consistency, and the offensive line. And this team has gotten old and overpaid. And in the National Football League, the window is very small. 3 years ago, Sal, after that Super Bowl win, we were looking at a dynasty, right? We're looking at a dynasty. Right before our eyes, 3 years later, as you said, 4-11-1. It's unacceptable in Philadelphia. It's unacceptable. Now, I am certainly one to be thoughtful in this process. And as I was thinking this week, with all the heat on Doug Peterson, and last week, I thought back to 2016 when Doug Peterson was hired. And I looked at the head coaches that were hired in 2016 as well. And it's shocking, Sal. Here were the coaches that were hired along with Doug Peterson in 2016. Adam Gase, Dirk Cutter, Ben McAdoo.
No.
Chip Kelly gets fired here and goes to San Francisco. Mike Mularkey, Hugh Jackson in Cincinnati, Mularkey in Tennessee. Still standing with a Super Bowl championship on his belt buckle. Doug Peterson. 7 coaches, 1 is standing. So I am not in this big hurry to make change and fire everybody. I think Doug Peterson, to me, has proven, he can win. And it was a horrible season. You said it. We all know we're not dummies. It was a horrible season. But I think if you blow this thing up from that perspective, there may be some areas need to be blown up, and we can get into that. But I don't think releasing Doug Peterson would solve the problem at all.
No way.
Yeah.
No, and I was on your show a month ago, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I said then, excuse me, and I'll say it now. Doug Peterson did the best coaching job in Philadelphia Eagles history. I say again, Doug Peterson did the best coaching job in Philadelphia Eagles history with losing his quarterback, losing his middle linebacker, losing his left tackle, losing his best special teams player. He turned around and he beat the Belichick-Brady dynasty in the Super Bowl when his defensive coordinator and his defense gave up over 600 yards of offense. And I think Doug Peterson, going to the playoffs for 3 straight years, missing it this year, it falls on the entire organization. And I don't think he should be the scapegoat at all. In fact, I think he should stay without a doubt. I think Doug is a great leader of men. I was not crazy about what happened on Sunday night. Obviously, nobody was. But, the bottom line is Doug has been the best coach here since Andy Reid, for sure, and better.
Sal, let me throw this out to you as well. You mentioned Andy Reid. Andy Reid's last year here in Philadelphia, 2012, was an abysmal ending. They were 4-12. They lost their last 3 games. They lost the last game of the New York Football Giants 42-7.
Yeah, remember that.
Yeah. Andy Reid was then released. He goes to Kansas City, and they hoisted the Vince Lombardi Trophy last year. And I think in that experience in Philadelphia that last year, Andy Reid learned a lot about himself. and I'm going to move this ahead to Doug Peterson. I think Doug Peterson learned a lot about himself in this dismal season. And another reason I think he deserves another opportunity. Sometimes you can't make that knee-jerk decision. You have to be thoughtful. And, oh, by the way, I think Jeffrey Lurie is one of the most thoughtful owners in the NFL. He wants to win very badly, but he will not panic. And I think having Doug Peterson come back as his head coach is the right thing to do. Now,
what do you think he learned?
I think number one, and we maybe get to the football side of things, that to be consistently successful in the National Football League, you have to have balance on offense. And they become a pass-happy football team, throwing the ball at a rate of about 67, 68%. And that, to me, that takes away from the essence of what I believe football is. And yet, as an old quarterback that played 17 years at the NFL level, my best friend was a running game. The ability to have people come off the ball, offensive linemen, and run the football, the physical element of the game, I think Doug needs to get back to. Get back to being a physical football team, balance and run the football better. And I'll take it to the defensive side now. And one of my notes, I'm going to talk to you about Jim Schwartz. And I have great respect for Jim Schwartz. This isn't about Jim Schwartz. And maybe it is, but it's not about him. It's about what you have to do in today's NFL, adapt, adjust, and make changes. This was a defense that was a wide nine. It's an old school style of defense. And I don't think they did enough with what they had to be a better defense. Now, this may come down a little bit to the front office as well, and that communication with that wide nine is based upon defensive linemen, and the Eagles have obviously done a terrific job with that, with all pros and all the money spent over there on the defensive line. But I think the new defensive coordinator has to be a guy that understands today's NFL. It is a passing league, Sal.
Let's talk about that for a second. It's a quarterback-driven league and a passing league more than ever. The NFL set a record in points scored. The NFL set a record in touchdown passes in 2020. Why? Because the league, under the tutelage of the new referee group, said, well, let's not call a lot of ticky-tack fouls. So offensive holding calls were at an all-time low. So defensive coordinators decided, hey, if you're not going to call offensive holding, we got to blitz. We got to blitz. Now let's look at the top blitzing teams that I just got from my friend Evan Kaplan at ESPN Stats and Information. The top blitzing teams in the NFL are the Steelers in the playoffs, the Ravens in the playoffs, the Cardinals just missed the playoffs, the Buccaneers in the playoffs, the Chiefs in the playoffs, the Bills in the playoffs, Seahawks in the playoffs, Washington football team in the playoffs. You get my picture here?
Now you got to blitz to get to the playoffs is what you're saying, right, Sal?
Well, in this league, you do. In this league right now, you do, because they're not calling offensive holding. And so where were the Eagles? They were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from the bottom in blitzing. They were blitzing only 20%. And you look at the Bucs in particular, they're going to play at Washington in the wild card game. Brady against Alex Smith. The Bucs were the second highest below the Cardinals by 0.1%. So I'm going to say the Bucs were tied with the Cardinals for the most blitzing in the NFC. And there's a reason why teams are blitzing this year more than ever. And that's because offensive holding is not being called. So if your defensive coordinator is not sending extra men to the quarterback, he's not dealing with situational defense, like you said. And you have to be, as you said, multiple. You do
That's the key. Multiple, yes.
You cannot be static. Just have a wide nine. Send 4. Hope to get home while your secondary holds up. And to me, that is the number. That's the number 2 thing that has to happen. Is 1, fix the O-line. 2, find a defensive coordinator. And the first thing I'm going to say to him is, let me see your blitz package, 3rd and short. Let me see your blitz package, third and medium to long. Let me see your big blitz package, second and long. Let me see your blitz package, first and 10. I want to see what the blitz package is. I don't know who that defensive coordinator is. That's going to be up to Howie Roseman and his team to find a guy who is multiple and situational and will come after the quarterback when necessary and when not necessary, just to disrupt the quarterback.
Sal, I couldn't agree with you more. 100% in agreement. As the evolution of the NFL has evolved offensively, you must evolve defensively. And I agree with that. I think Doug, Howie, Jeffrey, that should be the first thing they ask in the interview process. Let me see your blitz packages. Let me see how you're going to adapt and adjust to the NFL as it moves forward. It might get even tougher. And in that regards, to me, that's one of the priorities offseason, to find this defense coordinator that fits.
I got a name for you.
Bring it on.
Matt Patricia.
He just lost his job as a head coach, but he certainly is a great defensive coach, has a pedigree with the New England Patriots that is fantastic. Fantastic.
I mean,
yep.
Matt Patricia learned situational defense. He called one of the greatest situational defensive games ever in the Super Bowl against Seattle. To me, Matt Patricia would be ideal. He brings pedigree. He brings respect. He's got a great look. He's not a Todd Bowles kind of blitzer where Bowles will blitz you off the bus. He's not a Rex Ryan. He's not the Ryan brothers. He's not that guy.
They will blitz from coming to the bus.
Yeah, he's not the late great Jim Johnson, who, as you know, used to say to me, Sal, we're going to break down the protection, but we're going to protect the house. I mean,
right.
I must have heard late great Jim Johnson say that to me 25 times. Sal, we're going to break down the protection, but we are going to protect the house.
Yeah, Sal, as you mentioned, Jim Johnson, it resonates in my head is having, Brian Dawkins on this show and Jeremiah Trotter on this show, and the first name that they bring up is Jim Johnson and the multiple style of defense that he plays, and he was always going to put them in the position to be successful. And it was
look at the Bills. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt
Sean. You're right with Sean McDermott.
Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier, the DC up there, and the Bills are blitzing in the top 10. And you put that with a great young passer like Josh Allen, and you steal Diggs from the Vikings, and all of a sudden you're the number 2 or number 3 seed in the AFC. So I mean, the team needs to rebuild the O-line, find a defensive coordinator. I actually rank the quarterback position third on the list behind those two things. I think they got Wentz locked up. Hurts is on the team. I realize it's a difficult situation. And I realize what Howie Roseman said yesterday, where he said, it's not a discussion we are having, quote, right now, unquote. Now that, to me, was the headline. He opened the door to the possibility that they will trade Carson Wentz. He did not close it. And when you don't close the door is open.
Sal, how did we get to this point? And again, this is a debate that's going to take place over the next few months. We all know. Hey, we always talk about the quarterback position. Hey, there is no doubt Carson Wentz went south this year. He had a bad year. I don't know the reasons why. I could talk about it schematically, technically, things with his flaws mechanically. Offensive line, all the things. I mean, this Eagle team, Sal, on offense played 36 different players. Let me say that again. On offense, 36 different players. That is the most in the National Football League. Now that I'm not making an excuse for Carson, because hey, I look at the eye in the sky. It does not lie, and he struggled. However, we saw for 4 years he can play at a high level. So then the next question is, how do you get him back to those first 4 years?
That number about 30. That number about 36 yards is unbelievable. I did not know that number. That's unbelievable. And I would say it was a perfect storm of injuries and bad personnel decisions. You have to start with the offensive line. I am not excusing Carson Wentz, but I think that Carson Wentz was victimized by the same bad protection that Jalen Hurts was victimized by on Sunday night. Jalen Hurts was playing with practice squad players, and Washington football team was playing with Pro Bowl players on their defensive line. And I don't think you can make a real evaluation of Jalen Hurts based on his play, given the play of that offensive line. I think you have to have eyes wide open. He was evacuating the pocket. I agree with you, way too early. We all know that, but I would too.
If you could run like Jalen would run, you'd run too. I agree.
Yeah, I would too. I don't blame him, and I don't blame Carson for being a little gun shy. I mean, I think it starts with, first of all, Jason Peters, old, not Pro Bowl player. Brandon Brooks, injured. Lane Johnson, injured. Andre Dillard, I never liked the draft pick to begin with, got injured. Jason Kelsey, God love him, held the whole thing together, which is amazing.
Yep.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. To me, he's the player of the year on the football team, is Jason Kelsey, notwithstanding the Pro Bowl play of Brandon Graham. But Jason Kelsey's play was heroic and unselfish and tough.
Yeah, and the other area, Sal, you neglected to mention the wide receiving core. You know, there's a pedigree of players there. They must, number one, stay healthy, and that gets back to the age factor. And number two, be more productive.
Yep, and you draft Sega Whiteside over Metcalf, bad decision.
We
can all agree.
Yeah.
Then you compound it with drafting Rager over Justin Jefferson. In my view, my personal opinion, bad decision. I realized Rager he was a Ferrari in a Pinto this year, got hurt. But I would have rather them, given their circumstances, have drafted Jefferson. And all you have to do is go back and look at the film of how quick Mike Zimmer turned that card in. After the Eagles took Jalen Rager, I thought he was going to trip over.
Right.
They were so giddy with excitement to draft Justin Jefferson right after the Eagles took Rager. So, again, injuries, bad personnel decisions, and I think they have to address that O-line first and foremost, even before they even talk to anybody about trading Carson Wentz.
I'm with you, Sal. Sal, I can't thank you enough. I know you're fighting that cold. Get healthy, because you'll be down in Washington for the Tampa at Washington game, as will I. And I don't want to get close to you if you're not feeling well. So you get healthy, Sal. And Sal, thanks so much all season long. You've jumped on and just given this show and this listening audience a tremendous insight about the Philadelphia Eagles and about what's going on around the National Football League. Say hello to Lynn, the family. Hope everyone is great, and have a happy New Year, Sal. Thank you so much.
Stay positive, test negative, Josh. That's
Got it, Sal. Thank you, my friend. The great Sal Paolantonio always gives us amazing, incredible insight around the National Football League. Sal, thank you so much. We'll be back with more of the Ron Jaworski Show right after this.
Hey, a special shout out to my really good friends and their continued support of the Ron Jaworski Show. Jim G, thank you so much, and all the fine folks over at RK Chevrolet. You are the best. And Ed Herron, spectacular guy. Thank you so much, Ed. Pizza Hut in South Jersey. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Love you, man.
Big day of closet organizing and jigsaw puzzling? Get Pizza Hut's Big Dinner Box. 2 medium pizzas, breadsticks, and your choice of pasta or wings. Sealed for your safety, all in one box. Choose contactless delivery or new curbside pickup at pizzahut.com.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Ron Jaworski, and welcome to my podcast, Jaws Picks. And you know, I worked at ESPN for 28 years. I was very fortunate. And my best years at ESPN were because of my guest today.
Michael Irvin, most affectionately known as the Playmaker. Well, I'm going to go back to this past NFL season, particularly the way it ended, what is now being called around the National Football League as the tank game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington football team. As everyone knows, if Washington won, they were in the playoffs. If Philadelphia won, the New York Giants were in the playoffs. And it caused a big stir because late in the game, with the Eagles trailing by 3 points, Jalen Hurts, their starting quarterback, was pulled from the game for Nate Sudfeld, who has exactly 25 passes in 5 years in the NFL. And most people perceive that as a tank, that the Eagles wanted to keep that number 6 draft choice, not move up to number 9 if they win, and they've been getting blistered all around the country. Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, for that move. What is your take on the tank game?
Well, there's so many variables that's at play here, you know. Okay, and I'll put myself in different places. If I'm a fan, and I talk the integrity of the game, I want to see everybody play hard all the time. That's what I'm expecting every time I put down $1. I can see you having that perspective, right? If I'm a fan and I want to yell because and go at people, I can see you have that right. Now, if I'm a player in the Eagles locker room, and we had a conversation way before the game on Coach said, this is how I'm playing out the game, guys. We're going to do this. I want to get all the guys some work. Doesn't matter the situation. I want us to play hard. We want to use the game, get some value out of an evaluation. We get all the guys some work. Okay, then you go into the game and it unfolds like that, even though we're down, and he put Nate Sudfeld in. But he already discussed this with us. We knew this was going to be what it is. I'm okay with that. We had a discussion. We understood. Now, if I'm a player and he hadn't had that conversation, that's another story. That's another story because I'm giving you all I have from that locker room. If I'm giving the Eagles or whatever organization, I'm giving the coach. That's what I did. That's the deal we made. I'm expecting you to give me all you have to try to win a game. And we are not talking about what's going on with the dudes that wears suits and GMs that make draft picks. I'm talking about what's going on with the guys that wear the uniform on the football field.
Well, Michael, during the game, it was an NBC Sunday night game, so you know they got cameras everywhere. Everyone's got a camera on it. You know, everyone knows going to the game. You know, don't pick your nose because you're gonna be on national TV.
Right. They got it.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is taken out of the game. They got one of those Zoom cameras on him.
Right
and,
on.
You know, I'm not a lip reader, but it looked like he said, and most people thought he said, "That's not right." That's what Jalen Hurts said when he was taken out of the game. So that kind of tells me, and I agree with you,
that it wasn't an organized plan.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So if you have a plan like a preseason game, you're going to get a quarter. You're going to get we get it. But that was, and then after the game, some of the Eagles' more eloquent speakers with the media, the Jason Kelce's of the world, the guys that usually talk after games and give good insight to the game, they were tight-lipped, man. They left the locker room. They didn't want to talk to the media. That would tell me they were pretty ticked about the way things went down. So, I mean, there's some long-term ramifications for Doug Peterson and the Eagles.
Jaws, that you're right on this, Jaws. And I heard even just today when I was leaving my workout on radio that there was some outbursts in the locker room. I guess guys going after Coach Peterson are being pretty upset about it. And if that's the case, then I always said this, Jaws. Let me tell you, you can get hired again in this league when you lose games. It's hard to get hired again in this league when you lose locker rooms.
Yeah, the integrity of the game, as everyone likes to say. Yeah, but it's funny you bring up the coaches, and Doug Peterson was hired in 2016. There were 7 coaches hired that year. I'm going to give these names to you. 7 coaches hired in 2016. Chip Kelly, Mike Mularkey, Adam Gase, Ben McAdoo, Hugh Jackson, and Dirk Cutter. Where are they now? I mean, here we are 5 years later. You talk about a turnstile for coaches. What have you done lately, man?
Pizza Hut wings are bigger and better than the other Pizza Guy's wings. No one outwings the Hut.
This is Ron
Welcome.
Jaworski. I want to invite everyone to rediscover the excellence and diversity of my 6 championship golf courses. You know what first attracted me to the game of golf? It's the precision it requires at every level. At Ron Jaworski Golf, everything we do centers around you. It's the small touches that make golf so special. That's what drew me in years ago and forever shapes the way I feel about the game. Come enjoy our amazing signature golf courses or go to ronjaworskigolf.com.
They are built to be the very best. And thanks to Miller Lite, Mark Kramer, Brandon Dalton. I appreciate your support through the years, guys. And in our audience tonight, some of my buddies over there from Chev's Kielbasa, man, they're bringing over me. Frank got the guys out tonight, man. They're bringing some of that good kielbasa. Yeah, my wife's holding it up. We got a big bag of kielbasa, man. Thanks, Frank. Thanks all you guys over at Chef's. But it's the holidays. Man, I love when these guys walk in. It puts a big smile on my face. The guys over at Chef's Kielbasa. Frank, thank you so much to you and the fine folks over there as well. Once again, thanks to Sal Paolantonio for giving us 25 minutes of his valuable time. A little bit under the weather, but we hope Sal gets healthy. He'll be down in Washington covering the Washington football team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers for ESPN. I will be down in Washington calling the game for Westwood One. If you want to listen to the game on radio, and myself and Kevin Harlan breaking it down, having football fun is what we do. It should be an outstanding game down in Washington or Landover, Maryland, where the Washington football team plays. I am joined by Coffee Jones. Coffee's my partner duo, my sidekick. You name it, he does it all for me. He's right now on the computer. He's one of these smart guys, you know. I always have a pencil and a legal pad, you know. Coffee's always got the stats. He watches tape with me. He's writing down all the things that I say. He's got all the analytics. He's got all the analysis. So, Coffee, always, once again, good to have you with us, my friend.
It's great to be here, Jaws. Ready to get to this offseason. I mean, this is...
Well, no, we're not. We're not ready
there is no offseason. There is no offseason.
We don't want to be in the offseason. I don't like the offseason in January. I like the offseason to start February 8th, which is the day after the Super Bowl. That's what I like. That's what I like it to start. But hey, we got to deal with reality. Our team was not very good this year. 4-11-1 will not get it done. So you know what that does, Coffee? That sets me up for this discussion. At 4-11-1, we obviously need help. And people talked about the tank game Sunday and all the craziness that was going on with that. But hey, at the end of the day, when all was said and done, we end up with the number 6 pick in the NFL draft. That's the good side of it. It's a bad side of being 4-11-1 is when you get the 6th pick. But hey, I think there are needs on this team.
A lot of needs.
We're going to talk about this for the next few months, but you got to look at linebacker, which the Eagles historically have devalued. You got to look at wide receivers. You got to look at cornerback. There are some people out there that, I think are good fits. Sal mentioned it before he signed off about the offensive line. Clearly, some needs there, age and poor play.
Depth, yeah.
Going to impact that. So, all right, I'm going to have you put your Howie Roseman hat on, your Andy Waddell, director of scouting for the Eagles hat on, Tom Dono, and all those guys that have to make all these choices. As you evaluate your own team, and then you got to transpose that to the talent that's available. That's always the hardest thing to do. You have needs, but does that particular player fit your need?
Exactly. And then do you take best available? Do you take a need? And the bad part about it is the last few years, the Eagles have been looking around on the other people's yards and seeing the people that they didn't draft and how well that they're going to see. If you pass up a Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith, who just won the Heisman, and you see them have great success as receiver, that's going to be another line of quote-unquote draft misses if your guy's not an all-pro and you take it 6.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is there's such an unknown right now with Jim Schwartz, taking a year off. His contract expired. Jim's going to reevaluate, if he wants to be a defense coordinator again. He's been a head coach in this league. He's a well-respected guy around the National Football League. He'll get a job if he wants one, but that position is open. And when you look at the draft, you mentioned a moment ago, do you draft for need or you draft the best player available. So someone's going to have to come in from the defensive side of the football and say, okay, here you go through every game this year, every single play 50 times on each player and say, this guy will fit my scheme. This guy will not fit my scheme. We need a corner. We need a linebacker. So, it's hard for us. It's hard for me to make that evaluation right now because I don't know what defense this team will play in the future. So it's got to fit. The player you draft has to fit the scheme.
And then the first thing is going to come down to the contracts. And a lot of the guys, we talked about the most money spent on the D-line in the NFL, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, you got Malik Jackson. You got a lot of guys that you're going to have to retool and restructure some of those deals with the salary cap going down, Carson's money going up. Then what position are you going to play? Can you put Fletcher on the nose? Can you put him as a 3 technique, that Aaron Donald type? Do they have that type of flexibility? It's going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's what always happens when you're 4-11-1. Coffee. We had a lot of questions in Philadelphia. That's what makes it's done for us. We're watching other teams right now, but it does give you a little bit of a head start. Right now, Howie Roseman and his staff, Doug Peterson, his staff. First, they're evaluating this team first and foremost. You have to evaluate every player how they played this year. And I did want to mention something, and we had the number. And I got off too much paperwork. I mentioned to Sal about on offense how many players they played, and it was incredible. Sal was stunned by the number. On defense, 39 different players. On offense, 36 different players.
Yeah, both of them, most of them.
Both. I mean, those are starting numbers, and I hope our listening audience hears that. On defense, the Eagles played 39 different players. And for us that are not geniuses in math, there's 11 players on defense. That's 28 more players that, from the normal lineup. On offense, it was 36 players. Again, both of those numbers are the most in the National Football League. So, those are not records you want to have. You don't want to be number one in those. That means you're playing a lot of players. And that means a lot of players got hurt or a lot of things went wrong. And we know this was a very injury-prone football team. But to me, those numbers are startling. And when they start the evaluation process, which the Eagles have probably started already as they prepare for the draft, but you got to evaluate your own personnel first and decide who you want to keep, who do you want to pay. And then the defensive side of football, how do these players you have fit?
Yeah,
moving forward.
And when you look at the numbers, Jaws, I love the stats. The teams that played the most players this season, San Francisco was the only team to play total with more players on special teams than the Eagles. 84 players. The Eagles, 81. Jacksonville, 81. New York Jets, 80. Denver Broncos, 75. The top 5 teams all out of the playoffs.
All losers.
All
losers, unfortunately. Now, again, was that injuries? Were players cut? Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but the fact is, if you're playing that many players in the course of a 16-game NFL season, you're getting your butt whipped. You're getting your butt whipped. It's that simple. You're talking about Denver, San Francisco, and Jacksonville.
and the
Jets and the Jets. Enough said. Hey, enough said. If you're playing that many players, you're losing. Well, let's look ahead. And again, it's only speculation how Jeffrey Lurie's going to think, how Howie Roseman's going to think, and how Doug Peterson's going to think. And the one thing I do know about Doug, he's very analytical.
Yep.
And I've already said earlier in the show, I think, Jeffrey Lurie will be thoughtful in everything he does. The analytics, I don't always agree with Doug on the analytics. I just don't. And again, I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming me because I'm old school. I'm an old school kind of guy. I believe in the running game. I believe the essence of football is being physical, and I know he doesn't. We agree on that part of it, but sometimes you get away from being pass happy. But what you got to do is look at this team and say, what do we want to be on the defensive side of the football? And the analytics in today's game can help you there. So, they're going to bring in a bunch of guys, the defense corner, Sal already threw out the name Matt Patricia, who has a incredible, amazing track record as a defensive coordinator. I'm sure he'll be one of the guys on that list, but there's going to be a good list. But the analytics of the way the direction of the NFL is going, I think will be critical in hiring a defensive coordinator. And Schwartz is probably like me, a little bit old school. As I said earlier, he plays that wide nine. He's not a big blitzing guy, and he likes to play man to man. But the way the game is going with the multiple offensive formation you're getting, and 5 wides on the field, passing league, you got to find a guy that is looking to the future of how this league is going to evolve. So it's going to be a tough call.
And then, like I said, with the number 6 pick, there's going to be a good amount of money invested into that young man. That's a guy that you expect to be a Pro Bowler within his first contract and then moving on to be an all-pro player. I think it's a tough one. I think they got a lot of holes to fill. And, again, I think the worst part is you're going to be looking over your shoulder just who you don't pick. If you go for a need, if you get a Micah Parsons, those 2 receivers, you're passing those guys. You're passing Patrick Surtain. You're going to be looking at, that Jordan Jefferson, DK Metcalf situation all over again.
Yeah, don't mention that. 'Cause with Justin Jefferson, DK Metcalf, Howie Rose is going to have to live with that.
Every year,
Every year. Hey, that's life. It's just the way it is. No one's going to talk about, the Fletcher Cox and the Derek Barnett.
Lane
Johnson.
Johnson.
No one's going to talk about those good picks. It's just – that's how we are.
Focus on the bad.
It's Philadelphia. It's controversy. It's stir the pot. It's just the way it is. But Howie certainly has some picks he wish he could have a mulligan on. Always got to get some golf talk in there, get a mulligan on it. But he also had some very good picks that have had great careers in Philadelphia and have contributed to that Super Bowl trophy that we have in this great city of Philadelphia. But as we look forward now, and we're going to start talking about these guys. The Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. They're not of interest to the Eagles right now. I think we're solid there. But, wide receiver, it's going to come up because we know Jamar Chase down there at LSU is a phenomenal football player. Sat out this year due to COVID. Yes, sir. But the same thing can be said for Micah Parsons at the linebacker at Penn State. And he sat out this year. COVID. And I respect everyone's opinion, what they want to do, but this is why we just talked about it. Who's the defense corner going to be? The Eagles have always felt linebackers. I could plug and play anybody, but I would say that's wrong. That's my opinion in today's game. I want to see that linebacker that is an impact player.
Yeah.
You mentioned Trot. We always love when Trot comes on the show because in his tenure with the Eagles, he was an impact player. He made plays. And by the way, Al Singleton, I just think of guys who made plays. Al Singleton made plays this year, by the way. I give him a lot of credit, man. Played up in Canada, comes back here and played great football for this Eagle football team. But Micah Parsons is a guy that piques my interest because, you know what? He can play linebacker, play sideline to sideline, and he can rush the passer. 41 and a half sacks and 64 tackles for loss and 4 speed. So he has some quickness. All right. Well, that'll do it not only for this show, but it'll do it for this 2020 NFL season for the National Football League, for the Ron Jaworski Show. And I really want to thank everyone at the Fanatic for the incredible support. My guys that stand to my left and behind me are guys, thank you so much. Our producer and director and all these guys that know all the fancy stuff in communications. Guys, thank you so much for your incredible support in this crazy year that has been 2020 as we move into 21. Coffee Jones, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you all year long. And we're going to turn this over to the Sixers and the Wizards. Everyone be safe and have a great new year.
This